I think it's about time we talk about Alliance Insight. Hey guys, Otak here, back with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Maliss, or Post-Alliance Insight Maliss. Despite the fact that I've been playing Maliss for the entire format so far, I've made very little content on it, and I think it's about time we talk about what's to expect from it. Now, I know that Maliss is not the most favored deck in the format. Everyone says it's like the most unfair deck in the format because if it gets to go first, it's basically an FTK and it sucks going second, and I will admit that's pretty true. But I also won't disregard the fact that not just myself, but plenty of other people enjoy playing the deck. Just because you don't enjoy playing against it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like a toxic deck. People have fun with the game in their own way. Now, I will say Nightmare Griffin's pretty toxic, so he's gotta go. But let's talk about what's to expect with the new Maliss cards and Alliance Insight. So we get a couple of new cards, and then some cards that also just kind of help the strategy that aren't directly Maliss support. So we get the Maliss White Hair, and then we get the Maliss in the Mirror spell card, which is a pseudo Omni Negate. And then on top of that, we're going to be getting some At Ignister support, which in a sense is Maliss support once you like read the cards. So today I'm going to be diving into basically what the build's going to vaguely look like depending on how ban list turns out and also just how the format turns out. But also we'll be going over a couple of combos on where the deck is going from here. But before we do that, I have noticed that a great deal of you that is currently watching this video are not currently subscribed to the channel. So if you like competitive based content, tier lists, deck builds, and more, consider subscribing to the channel so I can continue to make videos like this one. But also, leave a like on this video, comment down below if you like Maliss or not, probably not. But with that, let's jump into the deck build. Alright, so here is, again, vaguely what the deck build's going to be looking like. A lot of this is heavily dependent on what the ban list between now and Alliance Insight looks like, but also just overall what the format's looking like when we get that far. I've done a ban list prediction video earlier on the channel, so the link will be in the description below. Give that a look. In the video, I discussed how Nightmare Griffin is probably going to be banned because this card, anytime it's good in a format, anytime it's being used, it's just not for good things because its effect is just really strong, and Maliss can abuse it by putting it in any zone they want, so that way nothing can be pointed at on your opponent's board. But also on top of that, there's the very high chance that like Bestials are going to get hit on the next ban list, and if that's the case, we have more room in the main deck for specific cards. But for non-engine, we're looking at 3 Ash Blossom Joyous Spring, 3 Ghost Ogre or Nibiru, you can switch either of them, 3 of the Fualos, 3 Imperm, and 3 Impulse. For the Bestial count, again, this is heavily dependent on if any of the Bestials are hit on the ban list, which most likely Druisworm will be in some way, shape, or form. But we're looking at 1 Baldrake, 3 Druisworm, and 1 Magnemite. We can tone down the Bestials in Alliance Insight because we have our own like pseudo Bestial in Maliss P March Hair or White Hair or whatever they're going to translate it to. Which is our own like personal Bestial. So the Bestial's post-Alliance Insight will be good for interruption on our opponent's turn, being able to banish like Detonator or something when the Eclipse Twins try to revive it, or being able to banish the Aggregator when Detonator tries to attach it, or something along those lines. But that now we have a searchable Bestial with Maliss March Hair, so that way we can make sure that we can still banish our Maliss monsters if, you know, it comes up. For the main engine, though, we are running 2 Chessy Cat, 3 Dormouse, 3 Rabbit, 3 March Hare. We're still running 3 of the field spell, 1 of the new spell, and then 1 of each trap. A couple things to note here is that I think post-Alliance Insight, Chessy Cat is definitely like a 2 of, because we definitely need to have those names in rotation, but also because we have an extra name in the March Hare, we don't need to be running this at 3. At the end of the day, Chessy Cat is kind of the worst one of the 3, especially by itself, whereas Dormouse and White Rabbit can still perform a combo of some sort by themselves. Chessy Cat cannot. She needs an extender like a Bestial along those lines. Same goes for March Hare, but March Hare is also a pseudo Bestial. As I said, it's an extender. It has ways to recur your resources, so because of that, she is kind of a 2 of. Seeing her plus a Bestial is also just fine. The issue is that she doesn't summon herself. She brings a Maliss banished card back to hand, which means that if you summon her, link for link decoder, Bestial banish her, summon the Bestial, she's not coming back to the board like Cat would in that example. And then, like I said, we are running one of each trap card still. There's no need to run more than one copy of these cards because you don't really want to see them in your opening hand if you can avoid it. Like, sometimes seeing TB11 or MTP in your opening hand is fine to protect against like Imperm or Veiler to be able to dodge them. But you definitely don't want to ever see GWC in your opening hand if you can help it. We're running 3 of the field spell. You can cut this down to like 2 and then like put like a terraforming in, because at the end of the day, the card you really want to be searching off of Ransom now is going to be Maliss in the Mirror. For those who don't know what this card does, it is a negate essentially for monster cards. Target one face-up monster your opponent controls, banish one Maliss monster from your hand or face-up field, and if you do, negate the targeted monster's effects until the end of this turn. And then it has an effect that when it's banished, it can banish one Maliss card from your graveyard and then add a Maliss card of the same type, monster, spell, or trap, from deck to hand. That seems a little less valuable because by the time you perform this, you're probably already like have the gas. But I could see using this to get to hair on your opening turn, so that way maybe you have that ability to banish from your graveyard with hair. But all in all, you particularly want to be seeing this, so you're going to try and always be searching this off Ransom if you can, so that way you have the ability to negate, and then also because you're banishing a Maliss card from your, or Maliss monster from your hand or field, you're able to banish the Maliss links that will inevitably end up in your end board, because we'll talk about that in a moment, and then get the resources off of banishing those Maliss monsters as well. On top of that, you're just getting a negate. So I could understand maybe running like a terraforming so that way you can see the field spell without having to search it off Ransom, because the field spell helps you play around Nibiru in a weird way. So definitely having this at your disposal is very helpful. The last of like the hand trap, non-main engine, of course, is going to be our Ignister cards, and then we do have 2 talents, of course. We are running 2 of backup Ignister and 1 of Wizard at Ignister. You can run 3 backup. I've seen people run 3. It really just depends on like the number count you're trying to get to and what you're going for. The thing about backup is she is searchable, and we'll talk about that here in a minute when we get to the extra deck. So we don't really need to run her at multiple copies. However, the deck, the way it performs is vastly different if you see the backup monsters in your opening hand versus if you don't. So for those who don't know what these cards do, so backup Ignister is if you control a Cyberse monster special summoned from the extra deck, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal or special summon, add 1 dark Cyberse monster from deck to hand, except backup, then discard 1 card. This is strong because it searches a dark Cyberse monster. It does not have to search Wizard if you don't want to. It can search any Maliss monster because they're all dark Cyberse. So if you just open this and you don't really have like combo, you can summon this, search like Maliss, a Maliss monster like Maliss Dormouse or something, and like say you're playing a Lure, which we'll talk about in a minute. You can then go Lure, banish, and then so forth. So like there's combo to be had here with backup at Ignister. It just depends on like what your build looks like. As for Wizard, if you control a Cyberse monster special summoned from the extra deck, you can target 1 dark Cyberse monster in your graveyard, special summon both this card from your hand and that monster in defense position. Also, you are Cyberse locked for the rest of the turn, so it's like a pseudo splash mage when it comes to the lock. And then it has a graveyard effect that doesn't come up a whole lot, but you can banish this card from your field or graveyard, target 1 monster your opponent controls, change its battle position. That can come up if you're trying to like go for game and like they're trying to wall up with defense position monsters or something. As for the extra, we are still running Bow, Access Code, 1 of the A Code Talker Ignister, which we'll talk about in a moment, 1 of Wicked, he is back in the extra deck, and again we'll talk about that in a moment, 1 Firewall, 1 Haggard, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Nightmare Griffin because he is still legal as of recording this video. He may be banned by the time Alliance Insight comes out. 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Link Decoder, 1 Hearts Cryptor, 1 Ransom, 1 Binder, 1 Little Knight, and 1 Splash Mage. Alright, so real quick, like I said, if we do end up seeing Nightmare Griffin banned, there's a high chance that we just stop running a Baoku, or we just stop running Nightmare Phoenix. If we stop running Griffin and Nightmare Phoenix, then we stop running a Baoku, which means we have 3 extra deck slots. We are running the Wicked again, because again, Wicked searches a Cyberse tuner, which just so happens that the backup Ignister is a Cyberse tuner. But also on top of that, Wicked can be like a pseudo extender. It can banish a Maliss monster to do the search, and then the Maliss monster can come back if you haven't used its effect already. But the big top dog to talk about here is A Code Talker. It needs 3+ effect monsters, so it's just Firewall Terahertz when it comes to summoning it. If this card is link summoned, you can activate this effect. You cannot special summon other monsters for the rest of this turn. Also, special summon as many Cyberse monsters with 2300 attack from your graveyard as possible to zones this card points to. And if you do, this card gains 500 attack for each. When your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can tribute one link monster this card points to, negate the activation, and if you do, banish that card. You can only use the effect of A Code Talker once per turn. So there's a lot to unpack here, but essentially this is your end board piece now. It is very powerful. It's an Omni Negate, which is something Maliss doesn't have, so this is crazy. So Maliss end board with an Omni Negate stacked on top of it. And on top of that, when it's summoned, it special summons as many Cyberse monsters with 2300 attack from your graveyard as possible. I know 2 very specific ones that'll end up in your graveyard due to full combo. So yeah, that's just strong. And on top of that, it tributes one of them for an Omni Negate, which means that you can still get the White Binder back into the graveyard, so you have GWC effect. Or you can use the spell to banish like the White Binder, and the White Binder come back and draw a card, and then it's still there for the A Code Talker tribute. God, this shit's crazy. The issue now is that the extra deck is a little tighter. Maliss has had the luxury of being able to run cards like Metaltronus in the past, because we have like 1 or 2 cards in the extra deck that aren't like absolutely needed. Stuff like Link Spider or Lingaribo, or even like some people are cutting like Firewall for a Metaltronus target. The issue now is like, if you want to be able to search the backup, then you're gonna have to run like Wicked or Signet, and then obviously 1 extra deck slot versus like 3 main deck slots is a little bit more valuable. But again, that's taking up an extra deck slot. A lot of this really revolves around if Griffin or other Maliss cards, like Maliss extra deck cards, are banned on the next ban list, or just limited or something along those lines. Like if Griffin gets banned, there's a good chance that Maliss will just stop running the Abaoku engine. Not like crazy likely, because Abaoku is still a strong card. However, to make Abaoku, we will have to just run Nightmare Phoenix at that point, which Nightmare Phoenix is probably still going to get run because it is just back row removal at that. And Abaoku is still a removal card. You can discard to pop a card, or you can use it to revive like the A Code Talker or something along those lines. Some cards that I do want to mention is like Dotscaper. You can still run Dotscaper in this build. I just don't see the purpose going forward. A lot of Maliss players, even before Alliance Insight, are cutting Dotscaper, myself included, because he is just like, you don't want to see him in your opening hand. And by having him in the deck, even as a one-of, there's that chance you see him in the opening hand. And he always seems to be glued to all of our hands. So I don't see the purpose of running him, because we do have that 4th name. And Dotscaper has, in the current format, been like a pseudo 4th name to banish off of Red Ransom, so that way you get like the extra body. I just don't like it. I think when you get good enough with Maliss, good enough piloting it, you come to realize you just don't need the Dotscaper. And especially so now that we have White Hair, or sorry, March Hair, you just like banish March Hair off of the Red Ransom and then bring her back to your hand with her effect. So that way you have like that pseudo bestial in your hand going into your opponent's turn. Next is cards like Metaltronus, Allure Darkness, and Signet Mining. Again, if you don't want to run Wicked, you can run Signet Mining, because at the end of the day, you don't have to search the Cyberse monsters or the Adagnister monsters with this card. You can search the Maliss monsters with this. You can just like cut like 1 cat or something, or you can cut up 1 backup secretary. Like it just depends like what you want to be running, what's your end goal. If you want to run Signet Mining, I think that's going to come down to personal preference. But I think like at the end of the day, Wicked is a lot more valuable, because he is a 1 extra deck slot versus 3 main deck slots, and main deck can be a little tight when we have to run like 12 to 15 hand traps. Lure Darkness is still like a good card. I'll probably end up like putting Talons to 1 and putting 2 Allure in the main deck, bring me up to 43. Also, again, a lot of it comes down to if Bestials get hit, because if Bestial Druisworm gets hit, all of a sudden I have 2 more extra deck slots, or 2 main deck slots available. You can run Allure if you want. Just this build is not concrete. This is just kind of like a foundation, and for those watching the video, you can edit it to your personal preferences and what you want to put in your deck. This is just me like recommending like kind of where to start, I would say. But Allure of Darkness, I run it in the current main deck. I'm probably going to try and find a way to put it in the main deck in Alliance Insight as well, because it is just a very good card. It's a pot of greed with advantage in this deck. Metaltronus, there's a good likelihood this card's still seeing play in Alliance Insight, because last I checked, Detonator's not going anywhere, and Detonator with an Eclipse Twins as a material, definitely not going anywhere. So there's a good chance we still see Metaltronus in the upcoming format of Alliance Insight. The issue is going to be fitting at least the Detonator in the extra deck. And if we end up cutting a Bow Engine, we have 3 whole slots, probably most likely 2, because again, we'll probably keep Phoenix because it is just back row removal. But just finding the room, I could see going into Alliance Insight format, like I could see Firewall finally getting kicked out of like the deck for everybody, just because like ending on Firewall Pass just doesn't seem like too crazy in the current format, much less the next format. So it really just depends. The last card I want to talk about is Link Spider. So a lot of Maliss players are playing it in the current format because it's a way to get the Nib token off the board, so that way you have a Cyberse Link monster on the board, and there's some advantages to that depending on cards you're running. In this deck specifically, Post Alliance Insight, there's a lot more advantage to being able to do that, because in the current format, the Maliss Link monsters just need 3 monsters plus a Maliss monster. So they don't even need 3 monsters, they just need monsters plus a Maliss monster. In the upcoming format, it's a little different. In the upcoming format, you play into Nib a lot more, and that's because the Adignister cards, if you don't open them, then you're summoning Wicked, which means you're exposing yourself most likely to a Nibiru very quickly, and you're putting yourself in a bad spot with Nibiru. So Wicked is going to be the way to search this, and you're going to be playing into Nibiru to be able to search these cards a lot more than you already do. So playing around Nibiru is a little bit more tricky going forward, but if you do get hit with Nib, but you have already searched the Adignister cards, you can then link away the token for Link Spider, and then you still have combo with Backup Secretary, summon it, search Wizard, bring back a Maliss monster from the graveyard, and then there you go, you have a Maliss monster on the board again to be able to make another Maliss Link monster if you haven't gotten that far. So going into this next format, I do almost feel like Link Spider might actually be mandatory, because Nibiru will get stronger against this deck than it already is, and there will be some more obvious choke points for Nibiru to hit. So you have to be smarter playing around Nibiru, but also you have to be smarter if you play into Nibiru. So Link Spider feels a lot more powerful going into the next format. So the first combo I'm going to show off is if you open exclusively Dormouse. The other 4 cards are irrelevant because we do have to discard off of at least one of these cards' effects. But we are going to start by normal summoning the Dormouse. Use Dormouse effect, banish the White Rabbit, you know, the typical line. We'll then activate the White Rabbit effect, pay the 300 for cost to then special summon her back, use her effect to set the TB11. Now, in the current mainline combo of Maliss, we have started setting GWC over TB11. That way we have the GWC in rotation, because we do end up summoning the White Binder first instead of the Red Ransom. That way we have the White Binder in rotation as well if we do get nibbed early. That way we can still use our most valuable asset in the current format, which is White Binder, being able to get those Fiendsmith cards out of the graveyard, or an Aggregator, or Twins. It gets annoying pieces out of the graveyard, which means it is our more valuable piece, but also it helps us extend a little bit, being able to banish our Maliss monsters from the graveyard as well on our opponent's turn, so that way we can get bodies on board. And that is a line that you can still take. In fact, that's a line that I would still recommend going into the next format. However, if you do only open Dormouse, just know it is a little safer playing the Ransom line going into Nibiru in the next format, and I'll explain here in a moment. We'll then link 2 into the good old Haggard Lizardos. We'll use his effect, banish the Dormouse for cost, and then use Dormouse, pay 300 to revive back from the banish pile, and then we'll go link 3 into Red Ransom. We will use the Ransom's effect to add the Malice in Underground. So obviously they're not nibbing us here. They're going to nib us when Ransom comes back from the banish pile, but thanks to the March Hare, things are a little safer now to do. So what we're going to do is then we're going to activate the TB11, banish the Red Ransom for cost, summon out the cat, And then we will, on res, use the red ransom, pay the 900 for cost, revive her back, and banish the March Hare. So again, this is a little safer to do. We'll use the March Hare, pay 300, bring her back from the banish pile into our hand this time because she does not summon herself. And this is safer to do because we are going to have the ability to, if we get nibbed after ransom, we have March Hare to banish the cat from the graveyard, and then cat comes back and March Hare's on board. We have 3 bodies because of the token. We can keep playing. So we're trying to revolve our plays around Nibiru if we have to go this line, because Nibiru hurts a lot. So we're going to link away the Chessie Cat and the red ransom for SP Little Knight. We'll go Little Knight effect, banish the cat, cat come back, and then we will immediately link 3 them away to make the white binder. This is fine here at this point, because if we get nibbed, here, I mean, it still sucks because we don't have GWC in rotation, but we have March Hare in hand, which means that if we get nibbed here, we can go March Hare, banish the white binder, come back, set the GWC. Like, March Hare helps us play around Nibiru even more. That being said, if we don't have any further extenders from this point on, we are going to have to use the March Hare here, so we do open ourselves up for Nibiru, but we do play around that. On the resolution of summon, because we're not going to use its on summon effect, we will go white binder, set the GWC, and then we will then use the March Hare, banish the TB11, because it can banish any Maliss card from hand or graveyard, to special summon herself. And then we will link them away for the Wicked. We'll go the Malice and Underground Field spell, banish the white binder effect, pay 900 for cost to come back and draw 1 card. And then, because we special summon in the zone, Wicked points to Wicked effect, banish the Dormouse, and then add the Cyberse monster. I do want to point out that we did draw the MTP off of white binder. We're going to pretend that I didn't draw that and I drew just another dead card, mainly because in our opponent's turn we are going to be set in the MTP, but it's so easy to say like, oh, my end board's crazy because I ended on MTP. No, we drew into that could be any card in our deck. From here, we will go the backup Ignister to special summon herself. It is an activated effect in hand, just keep that in mind. And then we will use her effect on summon to add the wizard. I don't discard here because I keep forgetting this card discards after the add. Just imagine I discarded one of the Fool losses. We will then go link 3 for the Heart's Cryptor here. Because we do want to have her in rotation, because we will be ending on a board where we can banish to get her back onto the field on our opponent's turn. So just having her as a resource is also really helpful. We will then go Wizard effect, again, activated effect. It will be targeting one of the Cyberse cards in the graveyard, doesn't matter. Special him and the target, which in this example is March Hare. We will then go link 5 into the new A-Code Talker. A-Code Talker effect, revive the white binder and the red ransom. And that's it. That's the end board. So we're ending on A-Code Talker and the GWC. We have ways to just play around this. And this, again, this is all based on like the other 5 cards in my hand are dead somehow. But if our opponent tries to activate a card, we just Omni negate it. We tribute the white binder, and then we go GWC to bring back the white binder, banish the rabbit and banish the Heart's Cryptor. Heart's Cryptor and rabbit come back. Rabbit set the MTP, and then we have Heart's Cryptor on board. We have 2 non-target banishes on the board. The only thing that could make this board better is if we had Malice in the Mirror, which unfortunately we don't. But there are ways to get to it. Like if we have ways to get back to the ransom, when she comes back can then search the Malice in the Mirror for the crackback if it's necessary. Just a lot of like really good stuff. But the point being here is that we have essentially the ideal Malice end board plus an Omni negate. The only difference here is we don't have Griffin, and I'm just going to say like there's no combo with 1 card that I can show you here on this video that will be able to do the Griffin plus the A-Code Talker line. It is possible, you just have to have the right like set of cards. All right, so the next play is if we open Field Spell and a bunch of dead cards. Ignore the fact that I have 6 cards in hand. I had too many cards in hand when making this test play. Just ignore that. So this is if we open only the field spell, or I guess gold shark, because the idea is they do the same thing. The field spell in this exact example, though, will actually benefit us a lot more, because that means that we have a different search off of red ransom when we get that far. The problem here is that this play does play a lot more into Nibiru, and we'll talk about that as we go through. Just keep in mind that because we're opening field spell, we haven't committed a normal summon, which does help us play around Nibiru a little bit more, especially with the Adignister cards. So we are going to start by activating the field spell and then banish the Dormouse. Dormouse effect to come back, pay the 300. Dormouse effect, banish the Rabbit. Rabbit effect, pay 300 to come back. And again, we're going to set the TB11 off of the Rabbit effect here because thanks to the March Hare, it's a little bit safer to do the red ransom line now. I, again, would still heavily recommend making sure your GWC and your white binder are in rotation, but a one-card combo doesn't quite get you there. You do need kind of like extenders to make the binder line a little more viable. But again, thanks to the March Hare, the ransom line is a lot safer into Nibiru. Not like crazy, like immune to the Nibiru effect, but you do have plays around Nibiru going into the red ransom line now. Like the resolution of red ransom's revive effect is no longer the opening choke point for Nibiru because you have March Hare in hand. Now, because we have already banished both bodies on the board, we will just link both of them away for the Splash Mage. Because we're running the Ignister cards and theoretically we don't have any Bestials in hand, we're not trying to like go further than Cyberse in this exact example. So we're not going to be like going for the Abaoku line because again, the last cards in our hand are dead. We have no extenders. So our only extenders is to get to the Cyberse or like the Adignister cards. So we're just going to lock ourselves into Cyberse right out the gate, and that's okay. We'll go Splash Mage, revive the Dormouse, doesn't matter here. We're going to link both of them away for the red ransom, and we will go red ransom effect, search the Maliss in the mirror, because we have another target finally. We will then just shotgun the TB11, banish the red ransom for cost, summon out the cat, and then we will go red ransom effect, pay the 900 for cost to come back and banish the March Hare. We will then go March Hare, pay 300, bring her back to hand, and again, we have not normal summoned yet, so if we got nibbed here, we could just go March Hare effect, banish the cat, cat come back, and then the hare will summon to the board. We have 3 bodies on the board we can commit. And then what we're about to do does open us up to nib more, but again, it doesn't matter as much because we have March Hare in hand, which is just essentially a Bestial. So if we don't open Bestials, we have a way to get to one. We will then link 2 into Wicked because he is a Cyberse monster, thank God. And we will then go March Hare effect, banish the TB11 to summon out the March Hare. We could banish the cat there, but Wicked has to banish a Cyberse monster from the graveyard to be able to search a Cyberse monster from the deck, a Cyberse tuner. So keeping the cat in there just gives us further extension. So if we get like nibbed here, it's not like the end of the world because we are turn player. So we will have ways to get a body on the board. But we will go Wicked effect, banish the cat from the graveyard, and then search the backup Adignister. And then we will go Chessie Cat effect, pay 300 to come back. If we get hit with Nibiru here, again, it does not matter because we haven't normal summoned yet. We can normal summon the Adignister, use her effect to search the wizard. Wizard, bring a Maliss name out of the graveyard so we have a Maliss name to be able to make the white binder, because white binder and GWC are still not in rotation yet. That being said, we are not going to just shotgun this back up yet. We're going to link 3 into that white binder, and we'll go white binder effect to set the GWC. That way we can still play. From here, we have all the pieces we need in rotation. If we get nibbed, it's like fine. It's not like the end of the world at this point. We will go back up Adignister, special herself, and then use her effect to search the wizard and discard a card this time. We will then go for the link 3 for the Heart's Cryptor, and then we will go wizard effect, revive cat, and then we will proceed to make a link 5 into the big boy, the A code Adignister. So then we'll use his effect, revive the white binder and the red ransom. Now, one thing to note here is that he specifically says revive to zones he points to. So if you summon him and they proceed to go Nibiru here, then you kind of are like SOL in a weird way, because then he gets wiped off the board and then the white binder and the ransom don't come back. So that kind of like sucks. But we do have the GWC in rotation, so we still have like Maliss combo. But one thing to like really note here is that if they Nibiru at the Heart's Cryptor, the problem with these Adignister cards is that they specifically say if you control a Cyberse monster special from the extra deck. So if they went Nib on Heart's Cryptor, you're obviously going to go Heart's Cryptor to dodge it. And then you're going to revive it back. It's no longer summoned from the extra deck. It's summoned from the banished pile by that point. So you won't be able to go Wizard effect. The thing is that it doesn't matter a whole lot, because again, we still hadn't normal summon yet, but Wizard won't be able to revive anything from the graveyard at that point, because he has to do it off of his special summon effect, which again doesn't count if you don't have a Cyberse monster special from the extra deck. My word of advice is that if you're trying to play around Nibiru and keep the A code on the board, his Omni Negate effect just has to tribute a link monster he points to. It doesn't have to be a 2300 attack Cyberse link monster or anything like that. It just has to be one link monster he points to. So my word of advice is try and maneuver your plays so that way you always have a link monster like in this middle column. So that way when you summon him to either link zone, either EMZ zone, he's always pointing to a link monster, even if it's like an IP. Because my word of advice is if you can't get to the red ransom or the Heart's Cryptor, make sure you have an IP so you can get to Heart Cryptor on your opponent's turn. So if you have an IP in the middle column and they go Nibiru, you can negate it, and then you can still get your link monsters back from the banish pile or your 2300 attack, which is just your red ransom and white binder. Now, I'm putting a lot of emphasis on Nibiru, and that's because, again, this version of the deck plays heavily into Nibiru. We have a lot more summons, we have a lot more choke points because of it, so we have to be smarter about how we maneuver around those choke points and what we have available to us in our resources. So that's why I'm putting a lot of emphasis on Nibiru. One thing that I haven't talked about yet is our good friend Lancia, and unfortunately, the deck doesn't play super crazy around Lancia unless you open the Adignister cards. And let's just go over a combo, even though the likelihood of opening your Adignister cards, because you only run 3 of them, is not incredibly high, but it's also not 0. All right, so like I said, our best way of playing around Lancia, if Lancia survives the ban list, which it probably will, and this also applies to Chaos Hunter a little bit. The difference is we will get an extra body on the board to make something else more viable. But if we get hit with Lancia, then we do have a play as long as we open backup Secretary or Wizard, preferably Secretary because she is an extra body. So let's go ahead and just say real quick that they shotgun Lancia in the draw phase. In this example, I'm about to activate Dormouse effect under the assumption they just hold Lancia until Dormouse effect, but then that would make the random talents in my hand live. So we're just going to pretend they shotgun it in the draw phase. So we are going to normal summon the Dormouse, link it away for the Link Decoder. Now, since we control a Cyberse monster special from the extra deck, we will go the backup Adignister, special herself, use her effect to search the Wizard, and then discard a card. We will then use Wizard effect, special himself, and the Dormouse that's in the graveyard. And this is like the bare minimum here. We are going to then link away the Link Decoder and the Ignister and the Dormouse for the red ransom. Now, you could go binder here if you want to. We don't have like Rabbit in rotation is the issue here. So we can't just like you go binder, set GWC, and then link it away, and then bring back the binder, banish Rabbit, and so forth. We don't have any of that in rotation is the problem. So I think Ransom in this exact example is actually better because we can use its effect to search the Maliss in the Mirror chained to Link Decoder. So we've searched Maliss in the Mirror, and off of just like this one particular scenario, we don't know what the other 3 cards in our hand were, so we don't know if we could have extended further than this. But if we could have, there were better plays to be made. But I've tried to finagle a board where you can still get the binder in rotation to still set the GWC, so then you can still have some sort of plays. I couldn't figure it out for the life of me. If you can, let me know in the comments down below. But from here, we are just going to link away the Link Decoder, the red ransom, and the backup. Link Decoder does not get banished in this example because Lancia is in effect, so Link Decoder cannot be banished. He still just goes to the graveyard. So we will end up summoning the A-Code Talker at Ignister. On summon, we'll use his effect to revive the Red Ransom, and then we will just set the Malice in Mirror and pass turn there. Again, we don't know what the other 2 cards in our hand are. They could have been live. It really just depends. But, like, this is still, like, an okay board. We have the Omni Negate off of A-Code Talker. We have the Malice in the Mirror. The problem here is that Malice in the Mirror is a monster negate, which means if they go, like, Lightning Storm, you're going to have to just go A-Code to say no to that. But you do, like, have some finagling. If they summon a monster and you just don't want it resolving, you go Malice in the Mirror, target to negate it. But you banish Ransom for cost. Ransom come back, banish Rabbit. Rabbit come back, set MTP, and now you have a non-target banish with a search, which will probably be, if I had to guess, your March Hare. And then you have an Omni Negate still off of A-Code Talker. So, like, you have some plays, and, like, we can assume the last 2 cards in hand are just hand traps. So, like, there's things to be done. There are plays to be made, even if you get put under Lancia. It's just a lot more dependent if you see the Ad Ignister cards. If you don't see the Ad Ignister cards, then you're still kind of just doing what we've been doing in the current format, which is hopefully siding in cards that can help us survive a turn, so that way we can get back to us, and then hopefully they don't have a second Lancia. Now, if you didn't want to go for, like, the A-Code Talker line specifically, what you could have done is, instead of Red Ransom, you could have made White Binder. White Binder set the GWC, and then you go Splash Mage from the Link Decoder and the Binder to then revive one of your non-Link monsters. Link away the backup and the monster you revived off Splash for IP, and then on your opponent's turn, just shotgun the GWC, bring back the Binder, banish the Dormouse that's in the graveyard, Dormouse come back, then you have bodies to make A-Code Talker on your own. But that's iffy, because again, your Rabbit's not in rotation, so you just have this A-Code Talker with 1 Omni Negate, and it's not really doing much. Meanwhile, here you have an Omni Negate and you have the Malice in the Mirror, which is another form of negation. So I just think, like, this version of the end board is a little bit better than the one I just mentioned. And that's really it. Like, I can go into further detail of, like, if you only open Rabbit, but it's also, like, very similar to if you open the Malice in the Underground Field Spell / Gold Sark. You actually play harder into Nibiru that way, and there's actually a super severe choke point if you only open into the White Rabbit specifically, because you're going to have to go Rabbit, set the MTP, or not the MTP, the TB11, banish Rabbit, and then so forth. It plays into Nibiru really hard, and it's just a bigger choke point. So I personally wouldn't recommend it if you can avoid it. That's really it for the deck list and a couple of the combos. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. Again, this deck build is not supposed to be like, oh, this is the exact build you should be playing. This is more of a foundation, and then shove in the tech choices you want to run. If you want to run Dotscaper, Metaltronus, Allure, Signet, go for it. I heavily recommend Link Spider in some manner. I just personally haven't found a spot to fit it in just yet, but I would recommend it. But other than that, if you're not currently subscribed to the channel and you like competitive-based content or deck lists, consider subscribing to the channel so I can continue to make videos like this one, and I'll see you all in the next video. See ya!